Buonasera a tutti. Hello everyone. My name is Elisa Polese. I'm a professional language teacher and also a language coach and author of language courses. I've studied more than 25 languages and I teach 13 of them. I hold an MA in Didactics and also an BAs in Translating and Interpreting. I'm a certified language examiner for English, Russian, Italian, French, and Spanish. So, I give presentations and lectures about language learning and multilingual learning and international communication, and I also conduct language workshops that enable people to start speaking one or more languages from the very beginning. And this is why we are here today. This is an Italian crash course, and I'd like to help you learn and speak as much as Italian as possible in the time we have. I know I can't hear you, but I would like to ask you that you do one thing. Repeat what I say in Italian as loud as possible, because the brain retains what we learn much better if we say it aloud. Do you think you can do that? So just make sure to repeat aloud, and I would like to interact with you, especially in the last part, but actually also now, because this is the part where you will be learning Italian. So you can write in the chat at any time, but just remember that I can answer your questions at the end. Let's get started. Iniziamo! Okay, so maybe many of you know how to say hello. In Italian, you can say ciao. Are you repeating with me? Buonasera or buongiorno. Ciao is the only one which is informal. Buongiorno and buonasera are formal. So, and I use them only with my friends, only when I want to make a joke, when I want to be funny. Otherwise, I always say ciao. Are you repeating with me? See? Ciao. So if you want to say your name, you can say, for example, in my case, mi chiamo Elisa. Mi chiamo Elisa. So mi doesn't mean I. Okay? So this is a bit difficult, but just learn it like this. Mi chiamo. Are you repeating with me? Mi chiamo. Can you say your name aloud? I want to hear you, although I cannot hear you. Mi chiamo, and then your name. Very good. I imagine that you said that. Okay, remember that even if you see like k, ch, that combination, that letter combination is pronounced k. Mi chiamo. It's not like Spanish, it's k. So now that we introduced each other, we can say piacere. 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 That means nice to meet you, but much shorter. Isn't it good? Piacere. So let's try. We will do it again. Ciao, mi chiamo Elisa. And now we'll say, e tu? Can you tell me your name? Piacere. Okay, so now you want to say where you live. So I live is vivo, vivo, vivo. Remember the O at the end, vivo. Now you want, let's say that I want to say, for example, where I live. I live in Germany, so I can say vivo in, like in English, Germania. Isn't it easy? Germany, Germania. Vivo in Germania. So now I would like you to tell me where you live. You can say vivo in and then your country. I know that you might not know how to say your country name in Italian. But now let's start where you, if you know it in Italian, good. If you don't know in Italian, you can look it up later, because the most important part is to know what to put before the country name. Yes, because in Italian, since we do not have cases, you don't need to change the words. So you can just learn the first part and then add the country. Vivo in. Now, can you tell me where you live? I will say vivo in Germania. Okay. And tu, e tu, and you, tell me. Vivo in and your country. But if you want to tell me where you live and you mentioned a city or a town and not a country, the preposition is different. You should say a. Vivo a Berlino. Vivo a Tokyo. Vivo a Città del Messico. Yes? So, vivo in plus countries. Vivo a plus cities or towns. Let's try it again. And I would like you to tell me where you live. First the country and then the city or town. I will give you an example and I will ask you and you. How do I say and you? E tu? E tu? Ok. Mi chiamo Elisa. E tu? Vivo in Germania. A Colonia. E tu? I hope you answered, and I hope you answered very loud, like in Italian. Okay, so now I'm going to tell you some verbs, but you don't need to understand the meaning now. You just need to understand the last letter, okay? Tell me what the last letter is. Mangio, parlo, guardo, ascolto, guido. So there is one recurrent letter at the end of each of these verbs. Which one is it? O. So in Italian we say O. Mangio, parlo. And that O is so important because it's telling the person you're talking to that you're talking about yourself. So if I say vivo in Germania, that means that I live in Germany. If I say mi chiamo Elisa, it means that my name is Elisa. And this is very, very important because if you change the ending, you are changing the person who is performing the action. Maybe you have studied Italian before. Maybe you know the word io, which means, in theory, it means I. But please don't use it. I don't know why, or actually I do, but I don't agree. It's put in all the books, in all the applications, but we do not use it when we speak. Because if you use it when you speak, you will sound like this. I live in Germany. I don't want to sound like that. So, io, it's put there in Italian only when you want to underline something. So if you're in a restaurant, you want to order food, you want to make sure that you get your own food and not someone else's food. So in that case, you could say io. But in most cases, no. Please don't do it. I know that maybe you have been taught like this, but we do not use it when we speak, unless we want to underline that there is a difference between me and the person next to me. Okay, so I don't want to do that. Okay, so remember not to say io, only o, vivo, mi chiamo. Now a very important verb, parlo, parlo. Are you repeating with me? Parlo. Parlo means I speak. You probably know how to say Italian. Italiano, italiano, italiano. So, if you just put them together, you can already say I speak Italian. Parlo italiano. Yeah? Okay. Sì, parlo italiano. Okay? Now, I would like you to tell me the language or languages you speak. Probably you speak many of them. So now I will ask you to tell me only a couple of them. So what we are going to do is I will tell you first how to say some languages, and the rest, as I said, since the words do not change, you can just look it up in the dictionary. So repeat after me. Inglese, inglese, inglese. English, I think you can see. Francese, francese, francese. For example, Cantonese. Of course, you do not have to remember languages or words which are not interesting for you. Yes, so I don't believe in word lists where you remember 1,000 words and then they are of no use to you. Just remember the words which are important to you and to your life now. Of course, the higher the level, the more we want to know everything. Okay, Chinese. Italiano, we already said that. Spagnolo, so it's like in Spanish, Español, but there is no E at the beginning. Spagnolo, it's more like English. Spagnolo. Tedesco. Tedesco is the odd one. Tedesco means German, and it's the only one which is different. But as you heard before, Germania is the country, but the language is Tedesco. So if you like this language or you speak it or you want to remember it, repeat it after me. Tedesco. Tedesco. Okay, so now can you say aloud one or two languages you speak? Per esempio, for example, parlo inglese e spagnolo. E means and, so you can say more than one language. If you want to say one, fine. If you want to say 25 languages, you will not have the time because it's a joke, okay? Parlo inglese e spagnolo. So can you tell me the two languages you speak? And even if they are not in that list, just try with the ones that you see, or up to you. Yes, try. The important part is that you name them. If you want to say that you speak a bit of a language, for example, Italian, you can say un poco di. Now, the important part is that un poco, if you already know some Spanish, it's just the same, un poco. But you must put di. And Italians also have an abbreviated version, which is un po', but you still have to put di. Un poco di francese, un poco di inglese, un poco di italiano, un poco di giapponese. So, you could say now, for example, parlo un po' di italiano, which is the same as parlo un poco di italiano. Un po', since it's an abbreviated version, is of course more informal, but still very good. Okay, so now can you say again, of course aloud, one or two languages you speak and a language you speak just a bit so that you can use what we have just done? Per esempio, for example, parlo inglese, spagnolo e un po' or un poco di, and the language you want, for example, italiano. Now, before we go ahead, I would like to revise and I would like to have a conversation with you. Okay? So I will ask, e tu? E tu? Mi chiamo Elisa. E tu? Vivo in Germania a Colonia. E tu? I hope you're answering aloud. Parlo, for example, I will not name all the languages. Parlo inglese, spagnolo e italiano. I cannot say un poco di italiano. Okay, I'll say once more. Parlo inglese, spagnolo e un po' di giapponese. E tu? Now, what was the only letter, the last letter of all Italian verbs when you're talking about yourself in the present, in the first person? Can you say that? O. O. Yes? Okay. Remember, mangio. Mangio is I eat. Mangio. Parlo, you know that? What is that? I speak. Guardo, I watch or I look at, because in Italian there is no difference in that respect. Ascolto, ascolto is I listen to. Ascolto. Guido means I drive. Guido, guido. Okay, now we would like to be able to interact with people, correct? So what we can do, the only thing that we have to do, the only thing is to change one letter. Instead of O, because O is to talk about ourselves, we have to put one letter, which is written like an I, but in Italian it's not an I, it's I, I, I. So we just changed the last letter. Parlo, I speak. Parli, you speak. Mangio, I eat. Mangi, you eat. Studio, I study. Studi, you study. Cucino, cucino. If you know Spanish, it's cocino. In Italian, it's cucino. Cucino, I cook. Cucini, you cook. Now, can you tell me again how to say you speak? Did you say it aloud? Parli. And how do you say you eat? I cannot hear you. No, maybe you said it. Mangi. Okay? So, the good thing is that in Italian, to ask questions, in order to ask questions, the only thing you have to do is to raise up your intonation at the end. For example, also a bit at the beginning, but don't worry about that. The most important part is at the end. Parli italiano? Parli. As I said, the most important part is the ending of the verb. If I said parlo italiano, it would mean, do I speak Italian? So remember to put I. Parli italiano? Now you could answer, and you could say sì, which is yes, sì. Parlo un po' di italiano. Or sì, parlo un poco di italiano. Sì? Okay. Now I wanted to teach you one word. Bene, bene, bene. Bene means well or good in Italian, so well most of the time. Parli bene inglese? Parli bene inglese? Yeah? What did I ask? Do you speak good English? So this is why I said well and good. Bene means well, but sometimes it can be translated with. But in Italian, it's an adverb, so it's well. So I can ask you, cucini bene? What did I ask? Do you cook well? Can you cook well? And you can say, sì, cucino bene. So I will ask you a couple of questions. You can say, please now answer only with sì and then the first person. If you really want to say no, just say no, because I haven't told you yet how to negate a verb, okay? No. But you can try with sì and then the verb. Parli inglese? Let's say that you speak it, you can say sì, parlo inglese. Cucini bene? Cucini bene? What does it mean? Can you cook well? Do you cook well? Sì, cucino bene. Why not? I cannot check. Studi italiano? Studi italiano? Studi italiano? Do you study Italian? In Italian, studiare is a synonym of study and learn are very similar in Italian, much more than in German, much more than in other languages. So you can almost always, not always, but you can almost always use one or the other, okay? Studiare is normally with a book. So anything you could study with a book could be said studiare, and you don't need to be enrolled to an university to a course. So again, studi italiano. One thing I would like to mention is that in Italian, the present tense is used to say both. For example, parlo italiano means I speak Italian, but also I'm speaking Italian. Because we do have a form for that, but we don't use it very often. So the present tense can be used also to say that you're doing something right now. For example, parlo italiano means it also means I'm speaking Italian now. Okay, so that you know more than you actually knew before. So you can also use it in other contexts. So let's go back so that we want to have a conversation. Now we'll ask you one last question. Parli russo. Parli russo. Russo, Russian. Russo. And don't worry about the R. I say russo, but in Italy, native speakers, not all native speakers are able to roll the R. So even if you say russo or russo, any type of R is fine. We will always understand you. So don't worry about that. It's really not the most important part to understand. What is important? O, if I'm talking about myself. E, so pronounced E, when you're asking a question to someone else. Yeah, and intonation at the end. Parli italiano? Parli inglese? Cucini bene? Now, two more things. The first one is I wanted to tell you how to say, so no is no, no, no. To negate a verb, you have to put a non, not no, non, non. I'm exaggerating. It doesn't have to sound like non, yeah? But you do have to put an N after the no. Non, non. Non parlo giapponese, non parlo cinese, non parlo turco, for example. Okay, so you can now say everything we said before, negating that. For example, non studio giapponese, non parlo russo, non cucino bene. Yeah? Sì, no. To negate verbs, you put non before any verb. It's the only way we negate verbs. Okay. The last thing I really want you to do is dove, dove. Can you repeat with me? It's very important that the accent, the stress is at the very beginning. Dove, dove. Are you repeating with me? Dove. Dove means where. And you can put dove at the beginning of a sentence to ask a question. For example, can you imagine what I'm asking you now? Dove vivi? Dove vivi? Dove vivi? So, very easy. You don't need any extra word. You just say dove vivi. Intonation goes up and it means where do you live? Dove vivi? One thing, I'm teaching you informal way of speaking because it's an informal way of speaking in Italian, but this is what we mostly use. To speak in a very formal way, we use it normally only with our boss, maybe, and not even all the time. Could be that you speak, that you are informal with each other, or maybe in a bank. So in very official situations, I would say that when you meet someone at a party or when you meet someone through friends, you will almost never speak in a formal way directly with the informal one. So this is the type of this is the ending you really want to remember. Okay, so now my question: Dove vivi? Can you answer? Do you remember how to answer? Dove vivi? Vivo in plus country, vivo a plus city or town. So now let's summarize everything in order to be able to have a conversation. Ciao, mi chiamo Elisa. E tu? Are you telling me mi chiamo plus your name? Mi chiamo? Piacere. Nice to meet you. Vivo in Germania, a Colonia. I live in Germany, in Cologne. Now, I can ask like this, or I can ask, dove vivi? Where do you live? Dove vivi? Tell me, I want to hear you. Okay, now we'll ask you, for example, I will say, parlo inglese, spagnolo, italiano e un po' di giapponese, un po' di giapponese. E tu? Tell me. Dimmi. Okay, now tell me a language you don't speak. tell me any language you don't speak. For example, I would say non parlo cantonese. Purtroppo, unfortunately. Non parlo cantonese. Can you tell me a language you do not speak? Okay. So, what is the ending when you talk about yourself? Ending for verbs, first person, in present tense, in Italian? O. Do we use io? No, we do not use it. We use it only when we want to underline that two people have different opinion, different different taste. So we do not use it if you don't want to sound rude or unnatural. Okay, so what I wanted to tell you, so there is much more that I wanted to tell you, but I know how long it would last because normally I interact with people. So I really hope that you enjoyed the lesson and that you learned something useful. The method I showed you today is one of the techniques I use in my Italian courses and lessons. So if you'd like to try my Smart Italian for Busy People course for free, you can give a free Italian starter kit a go. So this is the link, and you can find it also on my website, which is this one, like speakfromday1withelisa.com, and then you will find it, or you can write to me. Now I'm going to give you my contact details. So and I have prepared, almost forgot, I also prepared a very special offer. If you are interested in my courses, you can have a look at all my courses here. So I don't know if I click on it, maybe you can see it. Let's see. So I have a special offer for you, and I have these are all my courses and other information for you. And I also I would love to keep in touch. And I wanted to tell you that if you want to learn some more Italian for free, apart from the Italian starter kit I told you about that you can get anytime for Polyglot participant, I also wanted to say that I have a YouTube channel where I publish weekly videos about language learning. So, for example, these are my videos. Yeah. And I publish videos about Italian culture, Italian gestures, Italian expressions, and of course, grammar and vocabulary as well. So this is my Instagram, my Facebook, and you can also write me an email. And yeah, so now I would be very happy to hear your questions if you have any. And I also wanted to thank you so much for joining today's lesson, and I really hope that you find it useful and enjoyable. So, when I need to exaggerate in the end? Okay, now I'm reading the question. When do I need to exaggerate at the end of the words when speaking Italian? Okay, so if I understand the question correctly, so you mean to ask, I don't know whether the person meant to ask a question. So if you meant when you ask a question, it's like this. Parli italiano? Parli italiano? Yeah, so this is the way you should emphasize it. I will read again the question to make sure that it was the right question. When I need to explain at the end of the word. Yeah, I suppose it's you meant the intonation when asking questions. Otherwise, if you're talking about intonation in general, most probably it's a very long topic. But normally we emphasize the words which are important in the sentence, which carry the most meaning. Okay. Yeah, in the questions it's like this. I'll give you a couple of examples if you want to hear. So it would be like this. Parli italiano? Cucini bene? Studi italiano? I hope it's clear. So the most important part is the end. So the first part you say parli, but if you say italiano, bene, and so on, it will be clear 100%. To write e tu, it's written with the, I will write it here, e tu, it's like this, e tu, this is e tu, okay. And about getting this file, yes, you can get this file if you write to me. So write an email to me and telling me, yeah. So my email is speakfromday1withelisa@gmail.com. Any tips for pronouncing ye? Okay. Yeah. So the question is, any tips for pronouncing ye? If you are not able to pronounce it perfectly, do they understand you? Yes, actually, this is a very interesting question. Ye, I didn't teach that, so don't worry if you didn't understand. It's the plural article masculine. Okay, one of the articles in Italian are a bit complicated, but the important part, the combination is important because, for example, you would say, yeah, so this is ye. Okay, you could imagine yesterday. I'm sure that you can pronounce the word yesterday, yesterday. So the standard pronunciation in Italian is of yesterday, or yes, and then ye. The only thing is that actually, when I said the standard pronunciation in Italian, we do not really have a standard pronunciation because Italian is actually a new language. Until quite recently, people only spoke dialects. So that means that, yes, officially we have, or actually we had an official Italian, which was before, now not anymore, the one shown on TV. Before, people needed to talk on TV, they had to have the perfect pronunciation. Nowadays, you will hear thousands of accents on Italian TV, so you shouldn't worry anymore. In some parts of the north of Italy, they don't say ye, they say li, so it changes. It's not entirely correct, but so it's not so important. It's important to do something similar, ye. I hope it helps. Okay, I can find in Parlo. Yeah, so about the R, as I told you during this language course, the R in Italian is not a distinctive sound. A distinctive sound in linguistics is a sound which, when it's not pronounced correctly, will impede understanding. So, for example, there are many languages where when you pronounce like e or e, or when you pronounce o or it changes, and sometimes it changes the meaning. So you do have to pronounce it correctly. But as I said, at a certain point in this crash course, the R is not a distinctive sound because many Italians, not everyone, but many Italians cannot pronounce it. For example, my sister cannot pronounce it, but not because she has a problem. If you don't learn it as a child, it's a bit difficult, but it's not impossible, okay? But anyone understands you. But one very important thing in parlo, because actually the important thing is not to pronounce it parlo. The important thing is to pronounce it full stop. If you don't pronounce it, you would say palo, and palo is something else. So you need to make a sound. It doesn't matter. It's like parlo, whatever. The important thing that you hear that there is another sound there. For example, carne and cane. Cane is a dog. Carne is meat. So you really want to make sure when you say, for example, I want to eat meat, or I want to eat a dog. So you really want to pronounce it. But the only thing is really carne, carne, whatever. The important thing is there is a small sound after that. Okay. Any other question? I don't know. I cannot see any other question. Do you use informal? Okay. Do you use the informal or formal structure when you talk to older people? Older people than you. It really depends in which situation you are. So I can tell you that 20 years ago, it was really not normal to address older people or elder people informally. It was very strange. I remember someone talking to my grandmother, and they would say "ciao," and I hoped, oh, I really hope. Sorry, foreigner, of course. I thought, oh, I hope my grandmother will not get offended. Nowadays, it's not like that anymore. No one, okay, no one. It's a bit of a generalization because I cannot speak for everyone, but in most cases, you it's not so important to. So if you're talking to a grandmother, to your boss, so during your job interview, you want to be formal. So as I said, at a gala dinner, for your job interview, when you ask someone when you ask for information on the street, normally I speak in a formal way, unless the person is really of my age, because in that case you show respect, and because you are asking for a favor. So if you ask for a favor, you do want to be thank you. Okay, 1 second, I have to read the other. Okay. So I want to. Is Italian spoken in Italy the same as Switzerland and Malta? Okay, I've been to Malta, but I must say I never heard someone speaking Italian, apart from the cases where, I don't know, the cafe was really run by an Italian. So I never heard Maltese speak Italian. I know that some of them do speak it, but I never heard them Maltese speaking Italian. But I know I did. But she's married to an Italian, so I don't think it counts. In Switzerland, they speak the same Italian, in the sense that you don't have to learn Italian twice. But there are a couple of differences. Of course, languages get influenced by the languages they have around. So in Switzerland, part of the influence comes from French. So instead of l'altro ieri, which is the day before yesterday, I can't remember 100%, but they say something like avantieri, and in French it's avant-hier. So it's really similar. So a couple of words are different, or a couple of expressions or way of saying are a bit different, and we do notice it. But if I'm talking about a different language, no. In that sense, I would say it's 98% or 99% the same. Okay, where in Italy is most where in Italy is the most right accent similar to TV and standardized Italian taught in schools in this foreign language? Okay, this is a very difficult question. What is the best Italian to learn, or where should I go to learn Italian? So two very important points. In my opinion, there is no better Italian. If you've already been to Italy and you love a region, I really suggest you try to imitate the accent or the way of speaking of that region. Because what makes a difference is when you hear someone speaking the same way you do, you just integrate better, they accept you better. It doesn't mean that you have to learn dialects. It just means don't worry about speaking perfect Italian unless you want to work for the United Nations or something like that, or if you want to be an interpreter. But there is no region where they speak without any dialect. So it really depends on the person more than the region. For example, I come from the debated Napoli, but I never spoken dialect with my family. So that means is that I'm well aware of the differences. So for example, when I teach Italian, I know, okay, this word is used only in Naples. In another region they use that word, or the vowels change. In the south of Italy we pronounce them in a way, and the north of Italy in another way, and there are some differences. So, but everyone understands each other as long as they're not speaking dialect. Anyone understands each other. And I know that many people say Tuscany. Yes, Tuscany until they don't speak in dialect. Because if they speak using the dialect feature, of course, it's not standard anymore. But this is true anywhere in Italy. I know people who have a perfect pronunciation in Tuscany, even in Naples, even in any region. It really depends on the person. So if you go to a school, I really hope, because I cannot speak for all schools, that they will teach you standard Italian. And then when you go on the street, you will speak the Italian they speak there, or you will hear that in most regions they mix Italian and dialect. Not everyone, for example, I normally don't do it, but a couple of words could be used from the dialect if I speak to my family, not family, but to my friends. Really one or two, not more than that. So it's really it really depends on the person. Okay. So could you say a few words about Italian, a few words about Italian gestures? Yeah, Italian gestures. There are many Italian gestures, and I made one video on my YouTube channel, and I'm going to make more videos about that. And there are like that are well known by almost any Italian. I would say there are, I don't know, 50 probably or more. Yeah. So what can I tell you? For example, if you want to say what did you do? What did you do? No, what did you do? Or if you want to say, for example, if you like food, you can touch your belly. I cannot really show you, but I'll try. You can do so you touch your belly and you make this movement to show that you say yummy, but you don't say yummy. You can say and touch your belly like this. I will do something. Look. Okay, then would the average Italians understand Latin? Latin language? So Latin, or not Latin languages, Latin, not at all. We learned at school and we learn Latin in a very bad way, or if you learn it correctly, you only learn about words and maybe poetry. So we really do not understand it, and I studied for 8 years. And then why should someone choose to study Italian and not another language, another Romance language? I really believe that you should study the language you really want to study, because when it comes to motivation, if you don't do what you love, you'll stop at some point. So when people tell me, I want to learn that language because it's very good for my career. Okay, if you're really motivated and you really want, normally it really works when you do what you love. You do what you love, you do it, you enjoy it, and you do more. A language takes a bit of time and a bit of passion, or at least great interest or a great motivation. So I really would say that there is no reason why you should learn Italian unless you think it's a beautiful language, unless you want to go to Italy. What I can tell you is that if you like sense of humor, Italians are normally make many jokes, and they're normally quite funny, at least in my opinion, of course. So if you like sense of humor, if you want to interact with warm people, in the sense that they normally really communicative people, I would say it would be a good choice. But I don't want to say that it's better than another language. Okay. And why is it important to learn Italian? It's not important, so it was a different question. It's important if it's important to you. Of course, there are certain. When I was younger, people told me, languages. Why do you want to study languages? And then because many people believe that you can make money with languages. I think if you do what you love, in the end you will find a way to make it work. And so the same is for Italian. Maybe you will not find the best paid jobs if you learn Italian, but there are some jobs where, of course, you would need Italian, otherwise you don't get the job. So it really depends where life takes you. And let me see. Last question. Let's see if I have another question which I haven't answered. I don't know whether there are other questions. So I don't see any other question. So unless one question comes, I really would like to thank you again for being here with me today. I really hope you learned something useful. If you did, write it in the chat, because I will read it afterwards, because I cannot see it now, and I would be super, super happy to see that you enjoyed it. And thank you so much. And I hope, and I have another talk about Italian language on Sunday. So if you want to join my talk, I believe it's on a Sunday at 6 o'clock p.m. Sorry, 6 o'clock in the afternoon, the evening Berlin time. So I really hope to see you there. And yeah, so thank you. Bye. Ciao.